Hello, I'm Seeks97. Today in this episode of Minecraft Complete Modding Guide, I'm going to be showing you how to create your own cake. So this is going to be the cake block where you right click it on the floor and it places it down, and every time you right click it, it cuts a part of the cake up and fills up your hunger. So what we were making in this tutorial specifically is a block with which is our cake, as well as the extra ints holding our textures, so like the bottom, the side, and then the inside, so the bit when you've eaten it and there's an inside bit. And we'll be registering it, adding a name, adding a recipe, and then inside the block cake blue, which is what our block's going to be off, I'm just going to be showing you how to do all this code, which is basically the normal block cake code, just tweaked for our mod, so like the textures and stuff. So we'll be doing that this episode. So the first thing I'm going to do inside our mod_underscore class file is declaring the block which will hold our cake. Now for this example, or for this tutorial even, I'll be making a blue cake. Anyway, so what we need to do is put public static final block, call it something like cake blue or whatever, equals new, and then block cake blue, which will show up as an error because I haven't found it yet, I haven't declared it yet. I'll be doing that in the next part of this video episode. But what I want to put inside of these brackets is an ID, so I'll just put that, and a texture. So you usually put 0 and put the texture down here, but I'm going to add the override inside the bit where I put 0, so I wouldn't have to put it down here. Anyway, we put modloader.add override, and we're overriding terrain.png with our own texture, which I'm going to put inside a folder called blue cake, and it's going to be called top.png. So the block index texture of this block will be the top, and then the bottom, side and inside will be separate ints. Anyway, after the last bracket, we're going to set an hardness of 0.5f, so when you destroy it with your hand it will take a bit longer to destroy. We need to set a block name to, let's say, blue cake, and then we need to do two things called disable stats, and the last one's dot set requires self notify. I'm not sure what these two things do, but they seem to make the cake work 100% as opposed to not having them. So that's basically our block declared. So now I'm going to create 3 ints, each holding a different texture for the cake. So I've got the top already here, which is the block index and texture. I need to create an int for the bottom, for the side, and for the inside. So put public static int and call it, let's say, bottom equals modloader dot add override, and we're going to override like we did up here terrain.png, comma, and we're going to override that with a folder called blue cake, in which there'll be a texture called bottom.png. And so that basically says that this int will hold this texture here, and then what I'm going to do is copy this 2 times, and with the second time put side and change that to side because that's what my texture is called, and then this one to inside, and you probably guessed, change that to inside because that's what my texture is called. So that's the 3 ints with my extra texture files declared. Now we're going to do a really easy step, which is registering the block, where we put inside the public void load constructor modloader.register block bracket, and we need to put our block, which was cake blue, semicolon, and you know it works because there's no errors and this goes blue because it has to be the exact same as up here. Now I'm going to add the name for it, so the inventory name, so put modloader.add name, and we're going to say cake blue, and we're going to put speech marks to show it's a string and put the name for it, so blue cake. So this block's in-game name will be blue cake, and put semicolon at the end obviously to end that line. And now we're going to do the last thing in this mod_underscore class file, which is adding the recipe. So we're going to put modloader.add recipe, and by the way, this is going to be like the exact same like pattern as a normal cake, except the wheat along the bottom will actually be blue dye. Anyway, put add recipe and add only the opening bracket, and now we need to put new items stack, and then 2 brackets, and inside that we need to put what we're going to make, so cake blue. How many is going to be made? I'll just say 1, and then after that we put a comma, and then new object, the square bracket, which is where the curly brackets are but without clicking shift, and then we hold shift and press that same button to get the curly bracket, enter, and after this curly bracket has been created, put a normal bracket and a semicolon. Let me just move it up so then there's no errors. And now we need to put here our recipe. So the top line is going to be AAA, the second line is going to be BCB, so whatever letters you put, as long as these two are the same, and then this one's different from any other letters. And then the last line is going to be DDD, so there's going to be 4 different items needed, or blocks needed to make this cake. Now what I'm going to say is that A, which we can say by putting normal like apostrophes, and then put comma after him, I'm going to say A is going to be an item dot bucket milk, comma again, and then we're going to say what B is, which is going to be item dot sugar, and then we're going to say what C is, and that's going to be item dot egg. So we've got 3 milk buckets along the top, and then a sugar, and then an egg, and then sugar in the middle row, and then the bottom row is going to be our blue dye, or lapis lazuli. Now if we go to the item dye thing, we can see that lapis lazuli, or blue, is the 5th one along, which gives it its unique ID of 4. So when we want to say what D is, we need to put new item stack of item dot dye powder, how many we want, so 1, because you can only ever use 1, and then the ID of it, or the unique ID is said, which is 4. And that's our recipe done. Oh, and not only is that the recipe done, but it's also the whole of the modern class file completely finished, so we can move on to creating this block cake blue file.